Hey everyone, my name is Nick Gaumont and I'm a music producer from Montreal. Today, I want to show you the life cycle of a song from demo to full production. If you're ever discouraged that your ideas never sound good, then hopefully this video will show that if you're able to work fast and take time away from your stuff, your opinion can go from, I think this sounded better in my head, to I just can't stop listening to this song. So let's get started and take a look at this tiny little idea that I had a few months ago. So the original point of this was kind of just to learn how to record drums with one mic and to try to create some synth patches from scratch. At the time, I would say that I was pretty happy with how that turned out because I literally knew nothing about either of those things. But listening back now, I can tell that just mix-wise, it's pretty dark and not super pleasing. And this drum sound, as it is now, is super processed. And if you heard the original, which I don't actually have anymore, you would know that it's pretty much useless in any other context than this. So I kind of just set that aside and was not expecting to continue to work on it later, but the idea kind of kept nagging at me. And so a few weeks later, I decided to tackle it again and flesh it out a bit more. So the beginning section is pretty much the same, but I decided to add a little middle section, which is this. Now this sounds okay, but even at the time I knew that the drums were not at all the right sounds. I didn't have good samples and I was just way over processing them. But the kind of structure of the tune came together at this point. So then a few months later I decided that this song was really gonna need some vocals. So I asked my good friend Chris Hemmings to add some stuff to it. I didn't really give him much direction, just said do whatever you want. And this is the first thing that he sent me.
Welcome aboard, forget the shore, safety assured, impossible.
And then here's some of the middle section. This is the same version of the song.
Surprise, surprise, herein lies the irony of a ship that cannot sink.
Just hearing the vocals for the first time sparked a lot of ideas in my mind of stuff that I could add to this, and this really helped to push the song forward, just adding this one element to it. Over the next few days, I kind of went on a producing frenzy. So the first thing that you'll notice is the drums are changed now in the first half. Also added strings the second time around, and a little piano counterline thingy-majig off to the side.
Forget the sails, they're folded closed and won't be of use.
The reason I was laughing is because I just really don't like that string counterline that I added anymore. And thankfully I came to my senses and deleted it later. Another big change was the drums in the middle section have new sounds now, and I'll show you a later part. I was kind of filling in the gaps of where there was no vocals, so it seems a lot more interactive, even though it's not a live recording at all.
There are no landmarks out here, and yet still you choose fear. And to ignore it all through perpetual motion. Are we still? Have we stayed? Can we know? There is no way. If we are stuck here in the ocean.
And the next example shows you that sometimes the creative process is not always a straight line to the finish. And I actually think that I made the mix worse on this next version.
Welcome aboard, forget the shore, safety assured, impossible.
So the reason why I say the mix is worse is because the vocals are just way too loud now. And I tried to shape the arrangement a bit with the brightness of the drums, and neither of those things worked out very well. So the same day he sent me another version of his vocals, and I kind of fixed the mix a little bit so you get a better idea of what I was going for. Ultimately, this is not the direction that we ended up taking, but This new draft of vocals is what we ended up settling on, and was a big change in terms of the vibe for the song, and that's kind of what it needed.
Welcome aboard, forget the shore, safety assured, impossible.
So quite a bit of time went by between this one and the next version because I was taking an online course that was pretty intense. But what I did change was I remixed the vocals a bit so that it wasn't obscuring the rest of the track, because there's a lot of low-end information that we didn't need that was kind of cluttering up the drums and the bass especially. And I reverted the drums back to what they kind of used to be, so now it's starting to sound like a polished final product.
Welcome aboard, forget the shore, your safety assured, impossible.
And then if we fast forward to the middle section again.
All your fears, and you ignore it all, your perpetual motion. Are we still, have we stayed? Can you know there is no way? If we are lost here in the ocean.
So you can hear that it's starting to get a lot cleaner now and starting to sound like something that's finished. So I sent it to mastering my good friend Bobby Balo of Raytown Productions. Highly recommend him.
Welcome aboard, forget the shore, your safety assured, impossible.
So you'll notice now that everything kind of just sounds bigger, more in your face, a lot more present, and especially in the middle section where stuff really hits you harder and everything just kind of gels to make it feel like it's one giant puzzle.
There are no landmarks out here, and yet you swallow your fears, and you ignore it all, your perpetual motion. Are we still, have we stayed? Can you know there is no way? If we are lost here in the ocean, or stuck on a cliff, barely holding, barely holding.
So that is the final product of the song, and just for fun, let's compare. There were big changes, but when you go back to the first version, it's pretty surprising. So this is the final product.
Welcome aboard, forget the shore.
And this is the very first version of the idea. It's sloppy, doesn't sound good, and just doesn't capture my attention, at least. Now let's compare the middle section. So this is the final product of the middle section.
And you ignore it all, your perpetual motion. Are we still, have we stayed? Can you know there is no way? If we are lost here in the ocean.
And now here is the first version of the middle section. Didn't realize this until now, but the tempo is different. The combination of the tempo being slower and the mix being darker and the sounds just being not the right ones makes this a lot duller than the final product. Let's just check that out again.
And you ignore it all, your perpetual motion. Are we still, have we stayed? Can you know?
The first one. I think the right decisions were made. Although they weren't all perfect, as you saw, as the mix went kind of back in time a bit in one of the versions, but ultimately I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. So what are some takeaways for all of this? So my first takeaway for this is to work fast, but also take some time away if you can. So it's super important to work fast so that we can keep perspective, keep momentum, and remain interested in what we're doing. That being said, it's also incredibly valuable to take some time away if we can afford to do that, because that allows us to come back and gain a fresh perspective, because we kind of forget what it actually sounds like. And also, if enough time goes by, then our skills can vastly improve and we can solve problems that we probably weren't technically equipped to deal with earlier. My second takeaway for this is to have faith in your ideas. So sometimes an idea seems great in your head and then you start to work on it and it kind of loses steam, or it just doesn't live up to the ideal that you had in your head. Don't just delete these or forget about them forever. Every once in a while, go back and check them out, because maybe this will inspire you for a new idea, or you'll finally hear what the real problem is that you didn't hear before. Sometimes the ideas that we kind of throw away or set aside keep nagging at us, and if this is the case, I think you owe it to yourself to go back and revisit those, because that's probably a good sign that that idea is actually good and you just weren't doing what the idea needed to. That being said, my third takeaway is also to edit. Don't treat all your ideas like they're masterpieces, because they're not. With time, you'll develop a kind of internal clock that will allow you to know when you've spent enough time on an idea to know that it's an unsuccessful one and that you should just move on. A saying that I like a lot is, if there's any doubt, then there's no doubt. If you're listening to something, there's this one little thing that keeps bugging you, then you need to fix that, or you need to get rid of that, because probably in 5 years or 10 years or whatever, that thing will still bug you and you'll regret that you didn't address it. My fourth takeaway from this is the benefits of collaborators. So this song took on a lot of changes once I got Chris involved. When I got the first draft of the vocals alone, even though it was quite different from what it ended up being, it just sparked a lot of ideas in terms of how I could flesh out the song, and it really gave a new shape to the song as well. So when you're collaborating, it's important to be open to changes and to assume that you don't know what the final product will be. I like to treat the creative process more like an archaeological dig, where I'm uncovering something that already exists rather than assembling something like a puzzle from an image that's already fully formed. I kind of believe that songs already exist and we just need to help them grow and not impose ourselves too much on them. So this is pretty much the life cycle of a song. The amount of time that I spent on it is not really important, but what is important is that, like most of the songs that I've written, this one started in one place and ended up somewhere completely different. I've learned to allow the song to guide me and not the other way around. If you feel like you're always banging your head against the wall trying to force some song into existence, maybe it's time that you got some feedback. As of now, I'm offering songwriting coaching, where you can send me demos like that first one that we played, and I can give you some feedback on it, and we can develop the song together that way. Or you can also send me that demo and I can help you to flesh it out by offering some remote production services. Either way, if you're curious about how any of this works, you can ask about a free 30-minute consultation with me via the contact form on my website. Thanks. My name is Nick Gaumont, and if this video did anything for me, it's to make me want to go make some more music, and I hope it did for you too. See ya.